Power Automate, create a planner task from a flagged email. In this video, you'll learn how to create a flow using a template to create a planner task from a flagged email. We'll start with a template and adapt it to suit our needs. Before you create a flow in Power Automate, make sure you have access to or have created the necessary components the flow will connect to. This might be a form or a SharePoint list. In this case, you need access to a plan in Planner and Outlook. Have a plan you've already created open in a tab in Planner. Also have your email open in Outlook in another tab for testing. Open Power Automate in another tab in your browser. If you receive a notification saying you don't have access to Power Automate, you may need to speak to your school tech, or if you're a corporate staff member, log a general request on Edit. To search for templates, select Template from the left side menu. Enter Create Planner Tasks for flagged emails in Office 365 directly in the search bar. You can also search by app, so you could try putting in Planner. Once the template appears, select it. Check that each application is already connected to your account. This is indicated by a green tick. Note that corporate staff members can choose to connect their SA.gov account to use their SA.gov email. Once you check the connections, select Continue. Now you can start to edit the template. For this flow, we'll edit the tiles and add some additional actions. Select the first card in the flow when an email is flagged V3 and change the perimeters in the left side menu. If you want, you can change which folder the flow runs from. For example, you might create a folder in your Outlook called Tasks. If you select that folder in the flow, only emails moved into that folder and flagged will create a task. In this example, we'll leave the folder as Inbox. You don't need to change the second action card. This action is just getting your user information. Select the Created Task card in your flow. Remove the filler text in Plan ID. And select Enter Custom Value. Select the tab where you have your planner open. In the URL, you'll see two groups of numbers and letters. We only need the first group between the forward slashes after the word plan. Copy this in your clipboard and paste it into your Plan ID. You can also delete the group ID filler text. Select Enter Custom Value and paste in the same ID. Make sure you don't include the forward slashes. Now you need to tell the flow what to use as a title for each new task it creates. You need this to be dynamic, otherwise the task will be called the same thing. You can use the subject of the email as the title. To do this, place your cursor in the title field and select the dynamic content icon, the lightning bolt. Select Subject. The title of each new task added to the plan will now take the email subject. You can then look at the advanced perimeters to change where the new task will be created. This plan has several buckets, so I'll select the most appropriate. For the start date and due date, I'm going to add an expression with the help of Copilot. I'm going to set these based on when the email was received. To do this, I'll select the expression icon, FX, select the content I'll be using from the dynamic content, and then use Copilot to help me write the expression. For my start date, I want an expression which will make the date one day after the email is received. Once I've checked the expression looks correct, I can add it. I'm going to repeat this for my due date, but set this 14 days after the email has been received. So far, we've triggered an action by flagging an email in Outlook, told the flow where we want a new task created and what to call the task, and set start and due dates. We're going to add some additional actions to add more details to our task, but first we're going to save and test the flow at this point. Select Save in the top right, select Test, and then Manual Trigger and Test. To test, go into your Outlook and flag an email. If you then refresh Planner, you should see a new task created. Now we've checked it works, we're going to add 2 more actions so that we can add more details in the description and add checklist items. Emails sent from Outlook are formatted in HTML. If we put the body or body preview of an email into the Planner task as HTML, it'll look odd and have all sorts of added computer code. We need to add a step to the flow after Get My Profile to convert the email HTML code into normal text. To do this, select the plus symbol below the card, search for the action to add. In this case, enter HTML to text and select Convert HTML to text. Now that you've added this action, you need to tell the action what it's going to convert. Place your cursor in the text box and select the dynamic content icon. Type Body Preview in the search bar. Select Body Preview. We can then use this in the description. To do this, we need to add another action. Select the plus symbol under Create a Task. Type Update in the search bar and select Update Task Details from the Planner Actions. Place your cursor in the Task ID field and select Enter Custom Value. We now want to use information that we had in a previous step, so we're going to select the lightning icon to choose this data. Type ID in the search and select ID from under the Create a Task category. Place your cursor in the description field and here select the dynamic content to choose data from the previous step as well. Here we're going to select HTML to text. This will get the body preview of the email, which the flow has already converted to text and put the text into the task description. If you want, you can add standard checklist items from the advanced perimeters. Select Show All to edit. Select Add New Item under Checklist. Under ID, type Null. This is because we are creating this item from scratch and it doesn't yet exist. In the title field, give the item a description. Select False for is checked to leave the item unticked. When you're ready, select Save. Now we've finished our flow, it's important to test to check that it works as expected or see whether we need to make any tweaks or changes. To retest the flow, select Test in the top right. Select Automatically this time and select with a recently used trigger, then Test. If your flow has been successful, you'll see a green tick next to each action card. Navigate back to the tab with Planner and refresh the tab. You should see a new task has been created. Now when you look at this task, you'll see the task description and a checklist item have been added. These were missing from the first test task created. That's it. Now you know how to create a basic flow in Power Automate using a template to create a task in Planner when you flag an email.